Hey guys, tonight we drift to the very lip of time and lean over, listening for a sound that might not exist, the hush before the first heartbeat of the universe. You picture a clock with no numbers and no ticking hands, only a soft glow where midnight should be. Well, ask a simple, impossible question. What does before even mean when the story might begin with the page itself? One fun fact: you probably wouldn't survive being shrunk down to atom size. But well, try anyway, gently, kindly, with lots of metaphors and zero actual shrinking. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is for you right now. I love seeing the world fall asleep together. Now, dim the lights, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You lie back and let the question float above you like a lantern. What is before a beginning when beginnings are made of time? A wave rolls through your thoughts, slow, blue, almost musical, and the edges of words soften. In everyday life, before is just a mark along a timeline. Breakfast before lunch, autumn before winter. But in cosmology, the line itself may be drawn by the universe, stitched into space-time. So asking what came prior is like asking for a street north of the North Pole. The image arrives, a globe tapering into a smooth cap, no seam, no cliff geometry ending by becoming something else. Perhaps the universe resists your question not to be coy, but because the grammar of time belongs to the very thing you're trying to examine. You breathe in, and the air feels cooler, as if you've stepped into the foyer of a strange museum where time is the exhibit. A small plaque whispers that words can mislead before carries assumptions like luggage you didn't know you packed. Our time words are tools, not truths. They work inside specific frames and squeal when pushed past their design. Imagine opening a toolbox and finding a ruler meant for measuring distance, not moments. If you try to weigh a kiss with a ruler, the ruler only sighs. Maybe before the Big Bang is like that, pressing a household tool against a cathedral wall. Gently, you trace a finger along the fabric we call space-time. Space and time are one woven cloth, its threads curved by energy and matter, clocks slow near mass. Distances stretch as the cosmos expands. The loom is alive, not a stage set. In this fabric, the Big Bang isn't an explosion in space, but space itself swelling, warm, dense. The dawn of the patch you now inhabit. Run the film backward with classical rules, and the straightest paths crumple toward a boundary where the math blows a fuse. That flicker isn't certainty. It's a sign that the classical story has wandered beyond its jurisdiction. It feels like a violin string pulled too far, thinning to a whisper, then to silence. You rest on another possibility. Perhaps there is no sharp wall labeled first, second. Picture a universe finite yet edgeless, like the surface of a sphere where you can travel without ever meeting a cliff. At the earliest moments, time might shade into something more like space, rounding the singular edge into a gentle curve. Imagine a dawn where shadows haven't chosen a direction. It smells of dew and cool stone. In this view, asking what happened before time is like asking what lies south of the South Pole. The coordinates dissolve at the cap, not because a forbidden land exists beyond, but because the map ends by design. Maybe the universe prefers corners rounded, not sharp. Still, you want a staircase for thought. Try reframing before as beneath time, beneath the variables, towards something from which time crystallizes. In the quantum picture, the universe can be described by a timeless state. The flow we feel can arise from relations among parts, the way temperature emerges from countless jostling motions. You hear it like a choir without a conductor, harmonies rising, even when no baton marks the beat. At very small scales, quantum rules don't easily mix with gravity's smooth picture, and attempts to marry them often trade a single flowing time for patterns that produce an arrow when the conditions are right. Maybe becoming is a local illusion, a story matter tells itself as it settles into correlation. A floorboard in your mind creaks, meaning you aren't alone in asking. For decades, thinkers have returned to this shore and found different shells. Some say that asking what existed before presupposes that time is globally real. If time is emergent, the question should be what deeper relations give rise to earlier and later. You picture a mobile hanging over a crib, colored shapes, quiet motion. There is no privileged top without the hook and the string. There is no before without the network that lets before be defined. Maybe the universe doesn't hide answers. Maybe it hides the questions we haven't learned to ask. You can feel the arrow of time in your own body, the warmth of your hands, the slow settling of your breath. Entropy increases. Tea cools. Memories arrange themselves one way and not the other. That everyday arrow is both clue and trap. It tempts you to drag intuition into a realm where intuition loses traction. And yet, the low, calm beginning implied by our observations is part of the frame, and any honest attempt to talk about before must respect the picture drawn by the ancient light across our sky and the patterns of structure we see today. The sound here is soft static, like faraway rain or the faded afterglow of a young, hot universe, stretched into microwaves by expansion. You reach for language that doesn't bruise the mystery. Maybe there wasn't a before, only a deeper, because a self-contained rule set where time emerges the way a melody appears when fingers press a piano. Or maybe there was a precursor stage, a different geometry, a contracting phase, a quantum foam, a boundary condition that breathes meaning into equations. The important thing is to feel humility nested inside rigor. The mathematics are oars in dark water. They don't lighten the sky, but they row true. As you glide, you notice the scent of cedar and the delicate splash against the hull of your thoughts. If time is part of the raft, you wonder, what is the river? Tonight, before is a lens you rotate until the stars sharpen or dissolve into a wider glow. It might mean nothing at all in a timeless formulation. It might mean deeper than, as in gentle boundary conditions. It might mean across the page in stories where our hot beginning is a transition from another regime. Each option carries consequences, predictions, and a dance with data well meet in due course. For now, let the word rest in your palm like a warm stone weight without edge, warmth without flame. Maybe the universe just loves to repeat patterns, questions that turn into better questions, boundaries that curve into horizons, stories that begin not with a bang but with a change in what begin means. You exhale, and the lantern of the opening question dims to a calm ember. You are not lost, you are early. The path ahead welcomes you with silence shaped by mathematics and guided by observation. Outside your window, the night keeps its own counsel, and your breath finds a rhythm even time might envy if time could envy at all. The sea is what well sail. The compass is careful thought. The wind is wonder. You drift closer to the place where our rules thin, the way morning fog thins at a cliff's edge. The cliff isn't a location, but a failure of pathways. The straightest lines a traveller can follow through space-time run out of road, like a map that stops mid-bridge. That's all a singularity really promises. Your current recipe for drawing the next moment refuses to continue. It isn't a vision of infinite fire. It's the quiet click of a pen that won't write past the margin. The lesson is gentle and stern at once. When the map ends, you don't declare the world over, you fetch a better map. You run your fingertips over the assumptions that carried you to that margin. Matter, focusing paths together. Causality, keeping its tidy order. Gravity, doing what gravity does. Under lights like those, many roads narrow in the same direction. But the lesson also hums with mercy. These are classical lights. Lamplight on old parchment. In the very dense, very early hush, new lanterns must be lit, quantum ones, so the story can keep walking, so you try a softer edge. Imagine the first page not torn, but rounded time, shading into something space-like, like tile turning to moss underfoot. There is no bang like a door slamming. There is a hush like a room that already knows it will be lived in. The difference is more than poetry. It is a proposal about beginnings that don't bruise origins, that arrive smooth by design rather than broken by decree. Or picture a different kindness, a rebound. As the universe tightens, the fabric's smallest threads refuse to be pressed beyond a certain point, and what looked like a dead end becomes a turn. Not a slap, but a spring. Contraction softens, pauses, and hands the baton to expansion. In that version, before is not beyond the wall, before is on the other side of the same fabric, folded and then opened again. Edges become pivots, pivots become memory. You let another scene form. A door that isn't a door, a thin membrane where nothing doesn't mean emptiness, but the absence of any space or time to be empty in. On one side, no room, no clock. On the other, a tiny, closed world, already humming with potential, swelling like a seed that found water. Beginnings feel less like places and more like acts, verbs whispered into existence, to appear, to smooth, to warm, to glow. And then There's the long plane that never quite stops. In some stories, the early push doesn't end everywhere at once. It keeps going out there, forever budding new patches, new mornings, new skies, each with its own local weather, all cradled inside a larger wind. Our patch is one such morning. We don't need to see the whole plane to trust our sunrise. We only need its light to match the freckles on our sky. Through every room runs the same arrow you feel in your hands as they cool around a cup. The world writes records, one-way stars fusing, dust settling, memories layering like rings in wood. However, the beginning is drawn rounded, rebounded, budded, or endlessly rehearsed. It must gift that arrow to us. A first page calm enough that the story can thicken, a hush from which time can learn to flow. So you keep two truths side by side like smooth stones. First, the question, what was before? Maybe a tool used past its range, like weighing a song with a spoon. Second, if there was a prelude beneath, across, or around, it must hand us this gentle now we can measure. A near flat space, a quiet pattern of ripples, a sky cooled to a soft microwave glow. The stones are cool in your palm. You set them down by the bed. Outside, the night is patient. Inside, your breath evens. The universe doesn't rush you. It has practiced dawn for longer than any clock can count. Close your eyes for a moment and feel how the question has changed shape. It isn't a locked door anymore. It's a shoreline in mist, inviting you to walk until your feet learn the curve. You open the window of now and let evidence drift in cool, data-scented air with a hint of frost and distant desert dust. If there was any kind of before, it leaves fingerprints on today's sky, and you read them the way you read a seashell, by listening. First, you hear motion, light stretched red, like a cello note pulled long, galaxies leaning away with a calm, almost shy regularity. That reddening isn't smoke from an ancient blast, it's the breath of space itself, a steady exhale. Then you invite the faintest light inside, the afterglow that has been falling for almost the whole age of everything, warmed to the gentlest microwave hush. It feels in the mind like a room where the party ended hours ago, but the music is still barely there. A single sustained chord. That glow is almost too perfect, like a black velvet curtain with tiny, precise freckles stitched across it. Those freckles are a ledger. How smooth the early world was, how gently uneven it needed to be so that later there could be stars, and rain, and you. You pull another drawer, the universe's first chemistry set. In its first minutes, the cosmos was a kitchen running out of heat, protons and neutrons clicking together just long enough to leave a recipe. A dash of deuterium, a spoon of helium, a whisper of lithium. What we find in pristine clouds far away still matches the recipe card. The taste of that agreement is like cold metal on the tongue, clean, startling, quietly persuasive. Together, these clues build a trellis any story of before must climb. Whatever lies beneath, across, or around the beginning has to pass its gifts through this narrow gateway. Gentle ripples, almost no preferred directions, almost no rough statistics, hardly any leftover curvature. Not because the universe is unadventurous, but because the universe is tidy when it must be, and extravagant only when it can be. You think about what we don't hear, too. The afterglow's spectrum is so pure that any late fireworks, the kind that would spray energy long after the first year, would have smudged it. They didn't. Silence, here, is not emptiness. It is a signed agreement. You look out beyond light to the tremors of spacetime itself. If the early push was rowdy, it would have left a faint curl in the afterglow's polarization, a whispering B pattern. So far, that drum is very quiet. This doesn't end the tale. It tunes it. It asks for plateaus, not cliffs, for restraint, not bombast. It smiles on bounces that are gentle, cycles that are careful, and inflations that smooth more than they shout. You let your gaze drop to the cosmic yardsticks planted through deep time. Frozen ripples of ancient sound in the pattern of galaxies. Exploding stars that serve as candles. Clocks carved from the way clusters gather. Each one repeats the same melody with a different instrument. When melodies agree, you can close your eyes and just breathe. Of course, the sky keeps one or two small puzzles on the nightstand, differences between how fast nearby space seems to be stretching and how fast the early map suggests it should. Are these hints of a richer prelude, or just the universe asking for better calibration? Either way, they are productive grains of sand, places where pearls might grow. And still, Your thoughts return to the rooms we walked through, to the rounded beginning that replaces edges with grace, to the rebound that turns pressure into forgiveness, to the door that isn't, where a compact world appears like a dewdrop from nothing like a field, to the windy plain that buds new mornings, far beyond our horizon, while ours matures in local peace, to the idea that space itself might be woven from relationships so delicate that, once they thicken, a room appears for us to stand in, different lullabies, same rhythm, a calm first page, an arrow that lengthens, a permission for structure to grow out of nearly nothing. You return to your own arrow, the one you can feel, breath in, breath out, a body cooling slowly into sleep, memory settling in a preferred direction. The universe writes records, and you are one of them. A warm mark in cool air, a tiny increase in order here at the end of the day. However, before is eventually painted, it has already succeeded if it delivers this soft continuity between distant light and a heartbeat under a blanket. So you let the room dim another notch. Let the numbers step back and the images step forward. Think of a shore in fog, where every wave rounds the stones a little more. Think of a trampoline that does not break, a door that acts rather than opens, a field of summer grass where new worlds appear like fireflies you can't quite count. Think of threads that hum until a surface forms. Think of a well that might be a womb. The universe is not asking you to decide tonight. It is asking you to rest with good questions, to treat wonder as a skill, to keep your instruments clean and your metaphors kind. When morning comes, the sky will still be there, afterglow quiet, galaxies drifting, clues in place, oars ready. For now, you've earned the simple luxury of not knowing with grace. Close your eyes. Let the word before shrink until it's just a warm pebble in your hand. Let the hand loosen. The pebble doesn't fall. It becomes part of the beach, and the tide keeps moving. Steady, unurgent, drawing a line you do not need to chase. You step into a room without corners. The floor curves up into the walls, and the walls lean into the ceiling until you can't tell where one ends. Your footsteps sound softer here, as if the space refuses sharp echoes. This is a picture of a beginning that doesn't bruise a first page that arrives already rounded. Instead of a hard edge where time bangs into existence, imagine a gentle turn where time slowly loses its identity and becomes something like space, the way color fades into shadow at dusk. You walk and feel tile become moss beneath your feet, not with a step but with a gradient. Nothing snaps, everything yields. In this curve room, the language you carry changes shape. You realize how often you expect a start to act like a cliff, a yes or no switch, a drum hit. But the room teaches patience. Dawn never happens all at once. It is a negotiation between blue and gold. So perhaps the universe's first light was not a spark, but a smoothing, wrinkles damped, jaggedness softened, the stage prepared so that later there could be galaxies and the small weather of human lives. The air smells like cold stone kissed by sunlight. You can almost hear dust motes choosing which way to float. You trail your fingers along the wall, and the wall answers with a question disguised as comfort. What if asking what came before is like demanding north of the north? You smile, not because the question is silly, but because you can feel its limits now the way a seashell knows its edge. The grace of a rounded start isn't that it hides something from you. It's that it stops you from looking for a door where there is only a curve. The universe isn't coy. It's careful. Still, another door catches your eye, a door that isn't a door so much as a change in air pressure, a thin coolness against your cheek. On one side, there is no room to be dark in, no clock to be silent by. On the other, a tiny world swells like a seed that has just found water. Here, beginnings feel like verbs, not a place, but an act, to appear, to open, to warm. You don't hear a bang, you hear a held breath released. A soap film shivers and a bubble exists, round, smooth, already humming with possibility. You step through and find a long, wind-bright plain. The sky goes on longer than your eyes can follow. Far away, a shimmer, and then the faintest pop another bubble morning taking shape. Some parts of the plain keep their strong tailwind forever. Other parts slacken and settle into ordinary weather like ours. You kneel and touch the grass. It moves under your palm, not because you pushed, but because the plain itself is stretching. You're one quiet sunrise among many, and that thought doesn't make you small. It makes you held. Turn left, and a different kindness waits. a trampoline you can't see, only feel. The fabric under everything tightens as if bracing for a fall, then refuses to tear. What looked like a dead-end plunge becomes a turn upward, not a slap, but a spring. There is a brief, breathless pause, then the world exhales into expansion. In this story, before is not beyond a wall. It's across a pivot on the same fabric. The scent in the air is snow and cedar. You realize how many kinds of mercy a beginning can be. You remember the threads, to the web that hums until a surface forms. If space itself is woven from relationships, then before might be the quiet part of the loom, the pattern still gathering, the knots not yet tight enough to carry weight. Then, at some threshold, the weave holds, and a room appears for light to move through, for clocks to make sense, for you to watch dust in a sunbeam and call it beautiful. You don't have to choose among rooms tonight. They are pictures meant to soften a question until sleep can carry it. What matters is how they rhyme. Each one offers a gentle start, a way to keep the arrow you feel tea cooling, breath slowing without demanding that the universe leap from nothing to fireworks in a single impossible beat. Each keeps faith with the clues we read in the sky. A near-flat calm, ripples just loud enough to grow up into stars. A glow that is somehow both everywhere and almost silent. You stand at the center of the cornerless room and close your eyes. The images overlap. Rounded dawn, quiet door, windy plain, secret spring, humming threads. They don't argue. They braid. The braid feels strong enough to rest on. You don't need to know which strand will be proven truest by some future map. You only need to feel how all of them protect the same tenderness. The idea that the first gift was smoothness, not spectacle. Outside, the night leans closer to the window. Inside, your shoulders drop a fraction. If the universe has practiced anything, it has practiced beginnings, perhaps once, perhaps forever, perhaps in ways that ignore our words and respect our measurements. Let that be enough for this moment. Let beginnings be soft. Let questions be pillows instead of rocks. Breathe in, the room widens. Breathe out, the room warms. Somewhere a new morning takes its first breath. Somewhere an old star goes quiet. Here, a human being listens for the shape of a start and learns, very slowly, to be gentle with it. You sit on the threshold between pictures and proof and let both breathe. Evidence pads in like a cat, quiet pause, bright eyes. You don't need to chase it, you just need to notice. There is the afterglow, still draped across the sky like a soft blanket. There is the neatness of distant patterns, repeating at many scales the way ripples repeat on a lake. There are the tiny freckles that later become everything large enough to love. Whatever before means, it hands us this. A beginning that is calm, almost shy, yet generous in its promises. You listen for what the sky withholds as carefully as for what it gives. The silence around certain signals is a boundary painted with kindness. Not here. Not that loud. Not yet. It's the universe telling you to keep your stories soft at the edges, to choose the lullabies that leave room for sleep and for tomorrow's better map. You touch the window pane and imagine the other possibilities, pressing their faces to the glass. A universe born inside a black well, its first light hidden from its parent. An ancient world so old that only weightless light remains, its endless future smoothed into someone else's new dawn. A cosmic rehearsal that returns, not to repeat itself, but to try again with cleaner hands. Each thought arrives like a feather and leaves like a feather. No urgency, no verdict, just the sense that beginnings may be verbs appearing, smoothing, rebounding, weaving more than they are nouns. You notice your breath working with the story. Inhale. The room becomes a little bigger, like space learning to open. Exhale. The room grows warmer, like a field cooling toward night. Inhale. Options. Exhale. Patience. The rhythm itself is an answer of sorts. It says that the arrow, you feel the one that points from then to now, isn't an ornament. It's the frame. Any before worth keeping must protect that frame so that cups can cool, hearts can slow, memories can settle, and stars can rise from almost nothing. You return to the lantern you hung at the very start and hold it up to your face. It's smaller now, and gentler. It sheds enough light to walk by, not enough to blind you. The question it holds has softened. Not, what exactly happened before the first instant? But what kind of kindness did the first instant require? Smoothness is a kindness. Room to grow is a kindness. Quiet, so that small ripples can become galaxies, is a kindness. A beginning that keeps promises is a kindness too. You look around the cornerless room and realize it never asked you to choose. It asked you to rest with the knowledge that multiple paths can lead to the same gentle morning. It asked you to trust that our best measurements are lullabies, with numbers tucked inside soft but steady. It asked you to treat wonder like a craft, practiced, honest, and grateful. If you want one last image before sleep, let it be this. Imagine the observable universe as a glass bowl held up to lamplight. On the inside of the bowl is the faintest orange glow, speckled with blue dusting ancient light, still warm. Along the glass, delicate rings show where matter once sang. Across the bowl, tiny rivers of galaxies glitter like stray threads sewn long ago. And at the center, not the physical center, but the feeling center, there is you, quiet, breathing, a listener. The bowl is not yours to own, it is yours to notice. The noticing is enough. Now imagine placing the bowl back on the shelf. The room dims. Outside, a late bird arranges its feathers. Somewhere, a kettle clicks. The universe continues in the effortless way. A tide continues without asking your permission, without needing your certainty. It is content to be measured tomorrow. It is content to be wondered at tonight. If doubts flutter in, let them perch. Doubt is not an enemy of sleep. It is a small animal that calms when you hold it gently. Tell it that questions can rest too. Tell it that better answers prefer a rested listener. Tell it that you will bring it to the window in the morning, and together you'll watch the afterglow deepen and the new light arrive. For now, let the pictures fade in order. First, the rounded room, soft at every seam. Then the door that is more of a breath than a hinge. Then the long plain with its quiet budding mornings. Then the hidden spring, firm and forgiving. Then the humming threads that thicken into a place to stand. Finally, the glass bowl, replacing the nightlight at your bedside. Breathe in for a count you don't need to count. Breathe out for a little longer. Imagine your thoughts as boats untied from their moorings, drifting out onto a black lake that glows faintly with stars. The shore stays close, but you don't need it now. The water holds. And if, in that drift, the old question returns, what existed before the Big Bang? Let it arrive as a smile rather than a demand. Let it be a shell on the nightstand, smooth and cool. A reminder that some truths are not pressed but invited. The universe is still here, quietly at work while you sleep, smoothing where it must, flaring where it can, leaving receipts in the sky and mercy at the beginning. Good night. May your dreams be rounded at the corners. May your worries find the trampoline beneath them, and may your morning feel like a small, new world taking its first warm breath. You let the room grow quieter still, until even the hum of thought sounds like wind slipping under a door. Somewhere inside that hush, the idea of before turns from a cliff into a shoreline that the tide keeps rewriting. You don't stand guard over it. You stroll along it, letting the water lace and unlace your footprints. Each retreat of the wave leaves a different pattern. None of them needs to be final to be beautiful. You picture the universe as a careful gardener who prefers seedlings to fireworks. In one bed, smooth soil laid down so evenly that the tiniest seeds, those first ripples, can take root without being washed away. In another, a trellis of rules sturdy enough to hold the weight of growing vines. Gravity doing its steady pull, light doing its soft push. Matter learning how to gather without collapsing the whole garden. The gardener doesn't shout. The gardener waters. That is the tone of a good beginning. You turn to the simplest instrument you own, your breath. It is a kind of cosmology you can feel. The in-breath is permission. The out-breath is acceptance. On the in-breath, you let possibilities expand. Rounded dawns, gentle bounces, quiet doors, long plains, humming threads. On the out-breath, you let the measurements guide you. Hushed afterglow, tidy ripples, a sky that prefers calm to chaos. Back and forth, like the universe teaching you to rock yourself. A thought arrives that doesn't need to be chased. Maybe the question was never, what happened before? So much as, what must a beginning be like so that tenderness can exist? Tenderness needs room, and room needs smoothness, and smoothness needs a kind of choice that the universe makes only once in each story at the part we keep calling first. Whether that choice is written as a curve, a rebound, a budding, or a weave, its purpose is the same: to make later kindness possible. Stars are a kindness. Time to learn is a kindness. Sleep is a kindness too. You let your mind wander over the everyday proof that beginnings were gentle. A mug cooling on a table, a shadow slowly rotating around the base of a plant, dust suspended in a sunbeam, each grain holding its position just long enough for you to notice. If the first page had been loud and jagged, so many of these small poetries would have been crowded out. The fact that your evening has room in it is itself a relic of a quiet start. Now you gather your favorite images and place them on an invisible shelf, one by one, as if you were closing a small museum for the night. The cornerless room goes first, lights dimming along its curve. The breath door follows, a coolness resolving back into ordinary air. The wind-bright plane fades to a postcard, tucked behind the frame. The hidden spring slackens to stillness. The threads go from song to string, from string to silence. Nothing is lost. Everything is simply set down. You trace one last circle on the window with your fingertip and watch it vanish. You realize the circle is the right shape for tonight. No edges, no corners, no urgent angles. You can walk it forever without tripping over an answer that insists on itself. Around and around you go until before stops feeling like a demand and starts feeling like a smile. If a stray worry taps the glass, what if the truth is harsher? You can nod to it kindly. Even if the deeper story turns out to be stranger than these lullabies, it will still be obligated to deliver this gentleness you can measure. An early calm, enough quiet to grow a sky, enough patience to write your day. That stipulation is a promise the universe has already kept. You're allowed to rest inside a promise already kept. The night leans closer. In the distance, a late train rearranges its weight on the rails. The sound is both heavy and far, like a galaxy crossing a thought. You feel your own weight rearrange itself into comfort. Shoulders settle, jaw loosens. Even curiosity, tireless as it is, agrees to lie down beside you like a dog that finally found the cool part of the floor. Before your eyes slide shut, let a small ritual complete the room. Think of 3 soft things you're grateful for. Nothing grand, only nearby. The feel of fabric against your wrist, the way the lampshade warms its circle of wall, the particular flavor of quiet in this hour. These are local proofs of a universal kindness. They are also little anchors, keeping the boat of your attention from floating too far when you finally untie it. Now, let the shore grow dim. The boat moves without oars. The lake becomes the sky, and the sky becomes a bowl, and the bowl holds the faintest orange afterglow you have ever not quite seen. The freckles are still there, patient and exact. They do not need you to understand them tonight. They only need you to sleep well enough to ask better questions in the morning. If the question returns one more time as a whisper, what existed before the Big Bang, let it perch on the windowsill like a night bird. You don't have to answer it. You only have to give it a place to rest. In that simple hospitality, you're already keeping faith with the universe's first gesture. To make room. Close your eyes. The tide continues. Somewhere, a new beginning practices being gentle. Somewhere else, a very old star practices being quiet. Here, someone who has listened carefully is learning to let go. And when sleep finally finds you, it will feel like stepping onto a curve that never ends, only carries softly, steadily, into deeper dark, where even the questions get to dream. You let the last of your thoughts loosen like shoelaces. The room is almost entirely quiet now, just the soft braid of breath and heartbeat. A private tide inside a small shore. Before has stopped trying to be a destination. It's become the texture of the horizon. There, gentle, sufficient. If you still want one more image to place under your pillow, make it small and kind. Imagine a seed in cool soil. There is no clock in the soil, no calendar in the seed. There is a recipe, written in a language of patience. Soften, open, reach. Nothing explodes. Everything unfolds. One day there is a pale thread. Later there is a green insistence. Later still there is shade. In that story, before isn't another place. It's the quiet that lets a first motion make sense. Now notice your body, the way an astronomer notices light without judgment, with gratitude. Eyelids, heavier, jaw, softer. Shoulders lower, hands warmer. Each small change is a receipt that the arrow you've been hearing about has come home to your muscles. The same universe that wrote freckles across an ancient sky is writing calm into your evening, one gentle degree at a time. If a worry tries to lift its head, give it a blanket, name the budget one, the family one, the future one, and tuck it into a box labeled tomorrow's bench. Scientists put tools back on benches when the night runs short. You can too. The sky never punishes the telescope for closing its eye. Let the images you've gathered dim in an order that pleases you. Perhaps the rounded room settles first, its edges dissolving into a soft blur. Perhaps the breath door melts into ordinary air, leaving a memory of coolness on your cheek. Perhaps the wind-bright plane drifts behind a hill, still there, still generous, comfortably out of sight. The hidden spring slows to a lake. The humming threads rest like quiet strings, instruments waiting for morning. There is, now, only this. A human in a darkened room, listening well. And listening is a kind of love. You listen to measurements without making them harsh. You listen to metaphors without letting them lie. You listen to your own breath until it learned the rhythm of tide and turned into one. If the old question returns, smile at it the way you might smile at a friend who has already told you their story and is about to tell it again. You have room for them, but you don't need the ending tonight. You can answer with a kindness. Whatever before was, it was gentle enough to give me this hour. That is a true sentence, and it weighs almost nothing. Float the last few inches into rest. Picture yourself as a small boat released from the dock, rope unlooped with one quiet hand. The water is black blue and glossy. The stars are patient freckles. No waves arrive with intent. They arrive with rhythm. The boat discovers that drifting is a skill, and you discover that sleep is a place you don't have to walk to. You are carried. If a thought flickers, give it a lighthouse to circle. If a sound intrudes, give it distance and watch it soften. If you need a word, choose one that ends gently hush, murmur, soften, home, and say it in your mind until the word dissolves and leaves only its temperature behind. And if you dream, may the dream be this simple. A curve that never ends and never sharpens. A door that is more breath than hinge. A field that keeps offering mornings. A fabric that refuses to tear. A web that hums itself into rooms. None of it needs a verdict. All of it knows how to keep you. Good night. May the universe's first kindness, in whatever language it was written, reach you as warmth on your pillow, as ease in your chest, as the quiet knowledge that questions can wait and wonder can sleep.